soon, Movie News with Nicholson. This is a special episode today where we are breaking down everything and all things Interstellar. So we're going to be talking about all the things that they got right in the movie, all the things that we feel that they could have delved into a little bit more, maybe gone through a little bit more of the backstory, especially talking about the science and everything they really did get right. As main thing is their ambition with this film. But this is going to be full of spoilers. We are going to be talking about elements in the film that they have been keeping a secret, the ending plot points and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't seen the film, I recommend that you guys not watch the remainder of this video unless you don't really care about spoilers, or if you just want to be part of the discussion. So without any further ado, let's get right into some of the main topics here. First of all, my name is Nicholson. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun. And of course, joining me is
Devon Babb at that guy Babb. So you can follow me on Twitter or whatever other social networks you use. So yeah, let's get into it.
Perfect. All right. So a couple of things that I really liked about the film. First off, I loved how, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but I loved how scientifically accurate the movie was.
Oh, yeah.
It perfectly depicted the effects of relativity, because for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the distance of time travel and the fact that with one person moving at a certain speed of light or going through a black hole theoretically means that they will age much slower, time will move much slower for them. And the fact that they got that pitch perfect and they made that part of the story and part of the plot, not just an afterthought or not just a, hey, this would be cool if we got this right. They actually made that part of their story. So that just, to me, goes to show how much research and how much Christopher Nolan had invested in this story, what he was thinking of doing, what he was planning on doing, and how hard he actually hit it home.
Yeah, a lot of the science in the movie it's really impressive that they're able to, who knows if the calculations are exact for the time dilations, but you know, the characters in
I'm not talking about how
we're not gonna
we're going to say about the fact that it would happen.
Yeah, it would happen.
Yeah.
Maybe the years might be different, but let's not worry about that.
Yeah.
But
no way to prove that.
Exactly.
No way to prove that.
Yeah.
That we know of. Dealing with fifth dimensional beings, however, we might know, 2,000 years in the future, but
who knows? Yeah. But one of the things that the movie is it's really well orchestrated around the characters having to consider time as part of their mission, as well as Nolan factoring in time as part of the plot of the film. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about part of that too, because there's some things that I want to talk about, how things I think they could have done better, or parts of the film that I'm like,
yep,
really? But we'll get into that a little bit better. But I think that Interstellar is a phenomenal feat in as far as science fiction, and it's just a story about our world. And it reminded me a lot of films like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, there's so many.
I know there's a couple that you really want to talk about as well. But I loved it. I loved it. As a person that I've always been obsessed with multiple dimensions, time travel, relativity. This movie, I was like, man, this is made for me, but it's made for people like us. Obviously, it's a great film. I don't know what you think. Kind
of just jumping off right where you talked about. I think we're going to get right into the meat of the movie, and that is Matthew McConaughey's character. Again, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. When Matthew McConaughey's character ejects himself from what's the name of the ship?
That was the Endurance. The Endurance.
Yeah. And so when he ejects himself from that ship into Gargantua, into the black hole. Originally, his plan was he just needs to get Anne Hathaway's character to that other planet.
Yeah, he had no end game for himself. His end game was to make sure she gets to the planet that she can survive and have the human race survive.
Exactly.
Because plan A is, as far as they know, is null.
And I got to be completely honest. When I was watching the movie, I was so encapsulated by the storytelling, not just the storytelling, but the visuals, the way that everything was brought up, that certain things I let slide, I didn't even let enter my mind. So when he was floating down, or I should say falling down, because the forces of gravity would have just pulled him right apart. Yeah. But when he's falling down, and you can see it almost looks like a star. Like it almost looks like a star within there. And that's essentially what a black hole is, a collapsed star. But once he gets closer and closer to it, you can almost see structure, and then he falls through it. And I was, whoa, okay, we're going here.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. You could tell the odes to 2001.
Oh yeah, it was straight out of one of the final scenes of 2001.
Oh yeah, even going from the beginning, you got Tars and you've got
Case.
Case was the other one, and Kip. I liked that because Kip Thorne was the theoretical physicist who worked with Nolan on the script and worked out all the science.
That's cool.
And so the third robot in the movie, the one that was destroyed by, spoiler, Matt Damon's character, who, well, okay, I'm gonna just pause for a second, and I got to talk about him because I knew a long time ago that he had been cast in the movie. The role was being kept very secret. No one really knew what he was going to play. I don't even think until the movie came out, nobody even had hinted at who he could play. But I want to know if you had the same feeling as I did. Did he not stand out like sore thumb? And I don't mean just because it's Matt Damon. I mean the character itself. Did it not just... It to me, it didn't work.
It seemed like almost like it just is a last little bit of conflict to throw into the movie.
Well, yeah, it seemed like it was there, and it was there to juxtapose the sequence where Jessica Chastain was at home, like on planet Earth, and she was trying to figure out what exactly is going on, and you see her fighting with her brother at the same time that you see this happening. And to me, it was just, it didn't make sense to me to have that there. But more importantly was that the only reason I could see it being there is that, yes, they had hammered it home throughout the whole film that he was the best of us. That he is what everybody should aspire to be in terms of his level of humanity and what that meant to him. And then you see that he doesn't care about humans. He has no humanity. He is very calculated. He has become a machine. And that's what I took away from it at least. I want to know what your opinion was on that.
See, I can't... I have to disagree with you on that. Just because I think that he has just as much humanity as any of the other characters.
Okay.
You're just seeing it from a different light. His humanity is to survival. All he cared about was to survive. Mm-hmm. That's why he kept giving the thumbs up. That's why they kept giving readings that that planet was livable.
But do you think that was selfish? Like, do you think that it was a selfish...
But is selfishness a human trait?
Oh, fair enough, yes.
So that's just my point.
It's talking about how we cannot be as pure as we'd like to believe some people can be. I gotcha. Okay.
And that kind of leads me into, I know we're kind of doing a little quick aside, but I think that what Matt Damon's character and also Casey Affleck's character both kind of are the follies of humanity. So, like the teachers at the beginning of the movie.
God!
These are people who are they're making the wrong decisions, and it proves that humanity, like we have faults, we can make mistakes.
Like saying the Apollo moon landings never happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's and then
I mean that is a legitimate theory that is out there.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
No.
Coincidentally enough, we're going to talk about Kubrick. Might talk about Kubrick in a little bit, but I mean, actually, saying that, it just reminded me of, like, we got 2001: Space Odyssey, where the folly was the tool of man evolving beyond.
Yeah, I mean, the monolith shows up, and the apes are... They don't really communicate at all, but then all of a sudden you start seeing them act as a group, and then one stands above the rest as, like, the leader, but a very, harsh leader, and then it jumps to the future when they're on their way to the moon. They find it buried on the moon, and... and it follows this kind of through line. Once you get to the end of 2001, you realize that there is an overarching storyline through all the beats. But that was one thing I was happy to not see in Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
Because I did not want... And that has been the closest thing that they've been comparing this movie to, well before it was released, saying that was what he drew the most inspiration from, was that. But there were two other films that I really wanted to bring up that I could tell were a part of this movie. One of them was The Right Stuff. A lot of people have talked about The Right Stuff and the fact that Matthew McConaughey's character was essentially just like Chuck Yeager. Yeah. Just like Chuck Yeager's character. He was born to be in the sky. He was not born to be down on the planet Earth. The other movie is Moon.
Yes.
And Moon, directed by Duncan Jones, starring Sam Rockwell. So phenomenal
If you haven't
sci-fi
seen it,
movie.
Just pause this.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
Yeah.
And then come back.
It is such a good movie. I'm not going to ruin the twist, but there is a twist that happens about 20 minutes into the movie, maybe 25.
Yeah.
But it just completely changes. Like I don't even recommend watching the trailers. Don't even watch the trailers.
Yeah,
don't look it up at all, because you need to experience that movie, for lack of a better term, naked. You need to not know anything about the film going in order to really embrace how amazing it is.
If you need a reason to see the movie, it's made by David Bowie's son. Enough said.
The guy who they chose to direct the upcoming Warcraft movie.
Yes.
Directed Moon. Now, the reason that I like Moon, and the reason that I draw parallels between that and Interstellar, is because Moon, there were not very many, from what a lot of people could say about this movie, there were not a lot of special effects, like visual computer-generated effects in that movie. Almost everything that was done was miniature. Mm-hmm. They had some green screens there, but it was very rare. Christopher Nolan, ironically for Interstellar, there was no green screen use. They did not do any green screen use whatsoever. They pre-composed and pre-rendered all of the wormhole effects, and they had it on a screen that was built around their set.
Wow.
So when the camera was looking out the window, very similar to what Joseph Kaczynski, the director of Tron Legacy and Oblivion, what he did for Oblivion, because all those scenes when they were in their base, those were rear projected images. They were shown on set to get the reflections and all that stuff. Nolan applied the same techniques to this movie. Now, when they were filming in Iceland, they had to do digital background replacement, but they didn't use green screens in order for them to get those shots. But everything inside the spaceship they were actually looking at something. They could actually look at that, and they wouldn't have to use their imagination. So, I mean, that is a really great testament to it, and that is something that I feel that he didn't necessarily take it from Moon, but you could clearly see subtle influences that Moon had on this property. Because, I mean, Christopher Nolan is a fan of logistical filmmaking. And when you look at Moon, or you even look at Source Code, upcoming Warcraft, I mean, I can't say anything from Warcraft because we haven't seen anything from it, but it just had so many layers to it. You know, it has so many layers to it that you can really just tell that he pulled from several different sources, but they were all quality sources. I mean, even the parts that people didn't like about this film, I think that there's an argument to be said about what he was attempting to accomplish. And I'm not trying to give him pity points or anything like that. That's not what I'm going for. But you have to look at this film as a stepping stone. This is a movie that tried to do so many things that had not even been attempted before. And I'm not even talking about like filming in IMAX or anything like that, because movies have tried that, but just not to this extent. But you know, like, he put an IMAX camera on the front of a Concorde jet and flew it into the lower atmosphere, so we could get sequences of what it would actually look like in space.
I remember seeing that online. Yeah,
but I mean, just the effects of relativity. And how, like, them going around the Gargantua at the end to slingshot it would take 50 years, but to them it's only going to be a matter of moments. Okay, I need to know your opinion on this, because I was a little divided when I first saw it. Second time I saw it, it made more sense because I was able to hear it.
Right.
Anybody out there, by the way, had audio issues, you were not alone. A lot of screenings of that movie did have audio issues. So
I was in the AVX, so It sounded amazing to me.
Okay, so it was just like I saw it in IMAX digital, and it had a really good sound mix. But when I saw it in 35mm, there were a lot of parts where you could not hear what they were saying. Like the whole sequence at the beginning with the drone, you couldn't hear what he was saying to his daughter.
Yeah, see, the screening that I saw in the AVX was fine. Yeah, I'm not sure why the 35 print would be like that. It
first came out that the 70mm IMAX and 70mm were having issues, but digital was fine.
Yeah,
and 35mm was fine apparently as well. I went and saw it in 35. I had issues. I saw it in digital IMAX, and it was okay. And you saw it in essentially digital IMAX, is what AVX is,
pretty much.
And you said it was okay. So you're not alone if you did have issues. But getting back to the main thing, what did you feel, or at least how did you feel about the fact that he was the ghost?
Well, I mean, I kind of saw it right away.
Yeah.
I personally found this movie to be quite predictable. I don't know if that's just the way that my mind thinks, because like I said earlier, I've been obsessed with multiple dimensions and in the 10 dimensions for a long time. So when I went into the film, I kind of already had a grasp on that stuff. So I had to step up from a lot of the other people who were sitting around me. So I gathered right away that as soon as... Because he figures out the binary code. And he figures it out in about a night.
Oh, he immediately knows that it's binary. He's like, he looks at it for like a minute, and he goes, "That's not Morse code. That's binary."
Well, no, she comes back. Remember, she leaves, and he's standing there, and then she comes back like hours later, and he's still sitting there.
That was when he was about to write it, but I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly that she came in and she's like, "Yeah, it's Morse code," and he's looking around at it all and goes, "Wait, no,
that's binary.
That's binary."
Binary.
We're supposed to be looking at our place in the stars.
Just the fact that he figured it out.
Looking at our place in the dirt.
I found the fact that he figured it out so quickly kind of just gave me a clue. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just me and anything, just maybe me jumping to time travel. I immediately thought that he was pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Now, what I thought, and this leads into when Brand shakes the hand of the...
The fifth dimensional being.
Which I knew right away. I'm like, and she's shaking his hand. I know it. I know. I figured, I was like, hey, I figured that was him. He had gotten back to Earth as one of the fifth dimensional being. Maybe traveling through the wormhole had turned him into that, and that's how he was able to
that to
communicate.
me would have been actually really cool if they had have ended the film with him encountering, because one of the other parallels that a lot of people have drawn between this movie is Close Encounters. Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters, and how this kind of retconned the ending of that movie, because that, like, Steven Spielberg movie about a family man who at the very end of the movie completely abandons his family and goes off with these aliens. This movie was all about the opposite. It was all about him having to go up there but getting back to his family.
Yeah.
But
I knew
they
he was gonna come back.
completely sidelined that as soon as he got home.
Yeah.
Because he goes in and he sees his daughter, who is now 100 or 101, laying in this bed, and she goes, parents aren't supposed to bury their own kids. I have my kids here for that. You go and save Brant. And he goes, okay.
Yeah.
What? You've spent, technically, I mean, to you, yes, it's only been maybe a couple of days, maybe a week.
Yeah.
Technically, you've spent the better part of 90 years getting back to your daughter. And as soon as she says, go find that girl you were with for a while, and you go, okay.
Yeah.
Really? Like, that to me was such a weird, like, it just happened.
It almost seemed to me like they had originally conceived the film with Brand and what's his name again? I can't even remember. Cooper, yeah. Oh my god, brain fart. With Brand and Cooper becoming love interests.
Yeah.
But they nix that when they introduce Edmund, which she's in love with the man on the planet,
who
which
we never meet.
We never see.
We never even get a picture of that person.
No.
So I mean, we never get any history of her relationship with him. To me, there was no emotional grounding. I was never invested in her side of it, and I kind of saw some of the hatred that people have for Anne Hathaway. Not to say that I didn't like her performance or that I don't like her, but with this role, all I got from her was she was a little bit whiny. She was very self-interested, very what's the word I'm trying to find? Not self-aware, but self-indulgent.
Yeah.
It was just kind of all about her and all about what she wanted. Like, hey, you know what? I'm in love with this guy who's on this one planet that left me 10 years ago, and I'm still pining for this person. There were just certain relationships in the movie that did not hit it for me. And they should have solely stuck to the relationship between Cooper and Murph.
Yeah.
If they had they didn't need to explore that really anymore, but the movie didn't need to have some of the extra scenes that were in there. I did, however, like the scene where he watches his son grow up through the videos.
That was cool.
That was really well done. But then immediately, as soon as he's able to grow a beard, he becomes a sociopath.
Yeah.
And they did not even, like, if they had just had something where it says, like, for the 20 odd years that you've been in space or that my dad's been gone, there have been people trying to come and acquire my property.
Yeah.
And now he has just become a bitter old person who is solely thinking about protecting his home that he grew up in. And that's why that would have made a little bit more sense. But they didn't explain that at all. There were so many things just left unsaid.
I think that leads back to kind of a point I was making earlier. It was just his character is an allegory.
Yes, you were saying that.
I think that, like, his character and Man's character are both allegories for the follies of man, and like
Man is the villain.
Yeah, I know. Oh my god, really?
That was a little on the nose there, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
but anyway, I think they're allegories in such a way that, like I was saying earlier, in 2001: Space Odyssey, the Tool is the villain. Hal, right? In this case, instead of the Tool being the villain, and I love how Nolan specifically makes, and it's very lightly touched on, but Tars, Kip, and Case are all
monolith.
Well, they're the monolith.
Yeah.
They're all also ex-military brains downloaded into robots, almost like RoboCop style, where they're controlled.
Can I just say, just sorry to cut you off, but I love that little breakaway line where he says, maybe I'll just throw you out of an airline.
Oh, I know.
Like
Throwback, right there.
Right there, that was directly saying, like, they should have just had on the shelf 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, they should have just had it there in the shot. I mean, that was such
Wouldn't it be great
if
there was just like a house somewhere on the wall,
if that light that he turned on to say when he was saying a joke, if that had been the red eye,
that would have been
I think that would have been too close.
That would have been
I think they would have dealt with rights issues with that.
But I think the importance
that would have been really cool.
The importance of the fact that he even makes that comment right there throws away, because I don't know if you felt this at all when they were launching off, when the robots were in there. I became very fearful for a brief moment that the robots would turn on them. And
No,
I was like,
I never...
what if? And I was like, what if something goes wrong? And I'm like, just maybe, just what if? But then as soon as he says that line, I go, oh, they're good guys. No problem.
I never once had that fear because I never felt that Nolan would go there.
It's just that I think it was the fact it was just the mise en scène. It was the fact that they were so cold and metallic and
like when you first are introduced to TARS. And he looks like a wall. He just looks like a wall. You don't even know that it's a robot. Yeah. And then Matthew McConaughey's just looking around, like asking where his daughter is, and then he just leans in. He's like, "Do I need to tell you twice?" And you're just like, "Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, that's the robot. That's really interesting."
That was intense, and they scared the crap out of me. But they completely turn around and become your favorite characters.
Oh yeah, TARS by far is the best character in the movie.
We were actually talking earlier, and I was saying it'd be kind of funny or actually just awesome and endearing, is if at the end of the movie the fifth dimensional beings gave TARS a body back and he was human again. I'd be like, yay!
Well, now was
just like schoolgirl type squeamish. Yeah.
Going back to that, I don't think that they actually meant that they were human. I think that when they said that they were Marines, I think those machines were military purposed.
I think. See, I'm not.
I don't think that they were consciousness of somebody downloaded into a computer. I
can't see those machines being.
Well, it's just that almost answers the entire question of the movie if that was the case. If they have the ability to download a consciousness of somebody into a computer, why do you need to worry about food?
Transcendence.
Does he need? I completely blocked that movie out. I hate that movie. That movie
it was Nolan's old DP.
Right. Yes.
Which is funny that he's like...
It just proved that he has no idea of how to tell a story in a linear fashion.
I want to say that I want to believe, just based on the personalities that of the robots, that they possibly were a human based mind. Maybe not like downloaded.
Well, they could have taken, like, they would have obviously based it off of human interaction, but I don't think that was ever at one point a living person.
No, but at the same time, but it's just certain things, like the humor. Like, you don't need to put humor in a robot.
No, but they did explain that in the movie. They said, it's better for when he's interacting with his squad. It makes him feel like he's helping them.
Well, there was actually one thing that Case says. Case refers to TARS as a he and says he thinks it makes you it calms you guys.
That made me I picked up on that as that was a semantics.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say.
I felt that was just a writer's thing.
Yeah, it could go either way, but I think here's my theory is I think Nolan specifically made them, let's say, human-based AIs, because it would avoid the question of whether the robots could go rogue.
Oh, fair enough.
Because you prevent a HAL-type scenario by avoiding a HAL-type AI.
Yeah, with removing all logistical possibilities and finding out that humans are the wrong...
So that removes the tool from being the folly in the movie. So the folly ends up becoming man, both the person and man as a species, and that's the allegory that you find in Man the character and in Cooper's son, Casey Affleck's character. I think that those two are supposed to represent the fact that we make mistakes, and these are the mistakes. Because here's the scene that hammers it down for me. He's at Murph brings the doctor, and the doctor checks his wife.
Who is Eric Foreman?
Yeah, I know. Or Eddie Brock.
There was one comment I saw. Sorry to cut you off again. Yeah, there was one comment that I saw online that said, doesn't Topher Grace have that look on his face of, I can't believe I'm in a Christopher Nolan film?
Yeah, he
through
does.
the entire movie.
Yeah,
he's just like
oh my god, I'm here. I made it finally. Oh my god, it's so ridiculous.
Like, that's just, I mean, he obviously doesn't have the smile, but he just has the, like, I am so terrified by who is directing me right now that I don't want to screw up at all because I'll never work in Hollywood again.
But I think that, like, that scene where after Case, like, when Topher Grace says, like, okay, this is bad. These guys have... Like,
they need to go now.
And I can't remember his son's name, but Coop's son, Casey Affleck, says, no, we're not going to leave. There's no real logic behind that. His family is going to die.
And he had also lost a son already.
He did.
And they never even explained how they...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. They start mentioning Jesse. And I'm
all they did was they showed him in the video. They said, this is Jesse. This is your son. Or this is your grandson. And then literally the next video that you see of the son, when he's watching it, he goes... He just mentions, after Jesse... and it's just, okay, some time has passed. I guess the kid died. But that was it.
Yeah.
They didn't expand upon it anymore. But I think that's a one line. You just put one line in there. Like, your son died. All they mentioned is that they said, you'll lose another son. They never said that this is how your first son died.
But that's the key. Right there. Is the fact that he didn't learn from his mistake.
Do you think that's how the son died?
His son, I'm almost positive his son died based on the conditions.
Yeah.
The dust, all of because the rest of his
newborn.
family was like that too.
Yeah. Although they did have a child after that.
They did have childhood, but
and he still has problems, but he managed to get.
Yeah,
okay.
So they survived. The other one survived.
This is such a divisive film. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so
amazing.
good. Mainly because of this. Because even two people who genuinely like the movie have different points of view on what they liked and what they did not like. And I've even talked to a couple of people who did not like the film. And even their points, they want to sit there and they want to talk about it. Yeah. That is what is so unique about this movie. And
we could talk about this for hours.
We could. We're already at almost a half an hour point, so we might as well cut it short here. But yeah, just general thoughts about how you felt the movie, just in a paragraph.
Phenomenal. I think Nolan took a concept similar to 2001. I think he corrected it.
That guy Babb, not at Nicholson.
Trust me, I am the biggest fan of 2001. I love all of Kubrick's films, but I think Nolan just decided to take a little different. He's like, you know what? I think I'm going to give humanity the benefit of the doubt.
Now, that being said, do you think that if either Nolan did this type of movie back in 1968, or if Kubrick made 2001 or a movie like that today, do you think that Kubrick would have been more successful in terms of how you view Interstellar and how you view that it is almost a correction of 2001 in certain aspects? Do you think that your opinions would have been different? I mean, that's kind of a really big speculative question, but do you think your opinions could have been different?
Possibly. I mean,
because I almost feel that the reason why Stanley Kubrick, and I do not want to even use this word, I just cannot find a different word, but why he, for lack of a better term, failed in certain areas with 2001. I love 2001, by the way.
Both huge fans, yeah.
But in areas, just going off of what you're saying about how Nolan kind of corrected it, I think some of the pitfalls, that's an even better word, pitfalls that Kubrick came about was because of the time that he made the movie. Because there had not been anything else like that. Now, some people can say the same thing about Interstellar, but there have been plenty of movies that have come out that have been about being in space and being able to fully realize what it is like to be in space. Back in 2001, back in 1968, when they did 2001, they had nothing to base anything off of. No. They had never done any movie like that of that scale. I don't think they'd ever done an actual live action film set in space. No. I mean, you can do
not that intense. At least.
No, you can do what was that French director who did one like 1890 or 1901 or something like that, To the Moon or something like that. But that was the only one that I can think of between then and 2001 when they had a movie that was based in space, or at least based with exterior space shots. I could be wrong. Definitely, if you guys know a movie or anything like that, put a comment in the comment section.
Please. Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't know. Two very different directors. I think Nolan's. I think without Kubrick, Nolan wouldn't be what he is.
Fair enough. That's
so I don't. I think it's a question that cannot be answered because of
that golden age of
cause and effect, because of travel, because of the fourth dimension of time.
And the fact that the fifth dimension allows you to travel through time.
Yes.
That was one thing that I was a little curious about, was that, the third dimension has us have the ability to interact with actual tangible objects. The fourth dimension is the line of time. But you can never pinpoint any specific section in it. The fifth dimension allows you to see, at least that's how it's perceived in this movie, the fifth dimension allows you to see the fourth dimension of time as a three-dimensional construct, and you can, at any point in time, or at any point, you can go to any point in time and interact with it. That's what I got from the fifth dimension.
I think if you were to imagine like these fifth dimensional beings, I think if you were to picture one, it would look like a.
I don't think we could actually perceive.
No, but if you were to, it would
exist outside of a three-dimensional.
No, but if you were to represent it by a three-dimensional object, I think it would be if it were me,
be a blob.
Well, do you remember? Actually, I'm thinking more like in Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko. Do you remember the orbs that come out of people's chests?
Yeah, the
that was and it goes through everything that they were going to do and did in that day. That is almost the best representation of fourth dimensional being right there. Is you see
perceived in three-dimensional space.
Yeah, if you were to see
if
I were to see my life as a fourth dimensional being, you would see me as a baby, an old man, at the same time.
We got to be wearing sweaty nerd t-shirts right now, man. This is getting
I
ridiculous.
think we need tinfoil hats too.
Yes, we do.
Anyway, we should, before we get a little too crazy.
Yeah, we're getting all loopy here. So to wrap it up, I mean, I felt that this was just, certain elements of the movie definitely could have been improved upon. Certain elements I feel could have been completely removed. But overall, as just the size of the project, the ambitious nature of the project, I really do feel that this was a success.
Huge success.
To me, it's a movie that is almost 3 hours long, but I never felt bored.
No.
I never felt that it lagged, really. There was one point in the movie where I kind of had to... I didn't look at my watch, but I was wondering just how much longer is left. Not because I wanted the movie to end, because I wanted to know at what point in the story we were. Because it doesn't... To me, at least, it does not unfold as a natural story. There are beats that it gets to and that it overcomes and then moves on to the next one. It's not a 3-act structure, a traditional structure like that. It is a unique film. And it really takes you on a journey. And that is one of the beauties about seeing a movie like this, especially in theaters. And I could not recommend highly enough to see this in IMAX if you can. This is a movie that is designed for that. Over half of the film is shot in IMAX, which means that you will get the aspect ratio changing as you're watching it. But just seeing some of those sequences, like the sequence on the water planet in IMAX, was just incredible. A lot of people have seen a good section of that sequence in the trailers, which I really did hope that they would have left some of that out of the trailers.
It was
especially
pretty much
once you
all
see
there.
the filming, or once you see the film. Funny enough, Matt Damon is actually in the trailer.
Is he?
Yeah, you can only see him from behind.
Oh.
But it was when the thing blows up.
Oh,
And he's walking on the ice and he puts his hand up. Like as I was watching it, I was like, "That's Matt Damon."
That's funny.
Matt Damon. No, but yeah. This has been our kind of spoiler breakdown of Interstellar. Let us know what you guys thought in the comment section below. If there were any other points that irritated you, if there were other points we forgot to highlight that you really felt attached to or really kind of elevated your viewing of the movie, your enjoyment of the movie, anything like that, your favorite character, whatever it is that you want to talk about or discuss, put a comment in the comment section. We definitely want to hear about everything. But if you guys have not seen Interstellar and you watch this video, sorry for spoiling the whole thing, but go and see it. Definitely, if you can, go and see it in IMAX or the largest screen available, because it is an experience. Regardless if you like the movie or not, it has so many points about it that you will be talking about it, just like how we were today. So definitely recommend to check it out. But this has been our breakdown of Interstellar. My name is Nicholson. You guys can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Nicholson. You can also like our Facebook page at facebook.com/movie news with Nicholson, Niklsun. Devon, where can everybody find you?
I am on Twitter at that guy Babb, or pretty much any other social network you feel like searching me on. I'll pretty much be there. And I feel free to send me any messages, direct messages on Twitter, or just tweet at me. Anything's fine. I'll be happy to get back to you if I can.
Perfect. And as always, the show will resume its regular broadcasting on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So be on the lookout for the next episode of Coming Soon, Movie News with Nicholson. So until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye.